Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We're very pleased to be visiting with you about our TechTeach model and applying that to the Rural Grow Your Own program. Before we get started, I need to express my gratitude and introduce our speakers who will be part of this presentation. First of all, I'd like to introduce Sherry Hyder. Sherry Hyder, give us a wave. Yes, there's Sherry. Sherry is a professional development facilitator. She is a person who, among many other things, supports site coordinators in our TechTeach program. Our next speaker or presenter is Sean Mason. Sean is the superintendent of Crosbyton Consolidated Independent School District. Sean probably knows as much about our program as anybody in the whole thing, and he has I will say he's been the driving force behind our expansion to rural school districts, and we're very grateful for the day he showed up and said, "Hey, you need to do this." So Sean, give him a wave. There's Sean. Okay, excellent. And also, I'm very pleased to also introduce Ms. Jody Dennis. Jody is the site coordinator in the TechTeach program. And she became a rural site coordinator before we had a rural site coordinator. And she works with 3 to 4 different school districts, depending on the year, working to support teachers in rural school districts. So we've got a lot of expertise in the house, and I hope it'll be of benefit to everybody. As you probably all know, working with rural districts, there's a lot of different ways that schools, education preparation programs can do that. And education preparation programs also work with large urban school districts as well. So there are a lot of differences, and there are some similarities, of course. But the differences really are what make for the interesting programs in terms of teacher preparation. I'm sorry, I'm trying to share my screen here. Can you guys see a PowerPoint yet? You can see it? Okay. And let me make it full screen here. And you can see full screen. Yay. This is my first webinar. Here we go. So working with a rural school district involves some interesting challenges. One is that the number of teachers that a school district can hire. If you go to a Dallas ISD, they hire hundreds, sometimes thousands of teachers in a year. But a rural school district may not do that. So in terms of partnering and anticipating what they're going to need, it's a little bit different. Also, when you partner with a rural school district in a program like this Rural Grow Your Own program, what you're really asking the rural school districts to do is anticipate a year in advance what kind of openings they're going to have. So that's a challenge as well. And then, of course, there's always the challenge related to distance. Distance from your campus and getting people there. And obviously, we can use technology, but distance is also a factor. So we're very happy to have these experts on this presentation, and we're going to come up with some answers. So if I can, I'd like to orient folks around this question here. What are some of the ways that we can be innovative as university teacher preparation programs to try to support the development of teacher talent pipelines into rural Texas school districts? So what are things that we can do? What are things that we need to change perhaps? And what are ways that we can approach this process? So there's a lot of reasons for teacher shortage, and teacher shortage is a topic that folks talk about at a national level, certainly, and certainly they speak about it as an issue for Texas. But there are reasons for shortages of teachers in rural areas. One is that historically, high schools in rural locations have not always cultivated teaching as a profession. I remember attending a session with Deputy Commissioner Martin Winchester, and he did a poll of the audience looking at the number of rural districts that have FFA, and then compared that to the number who have Future Teachers of America programs, and it was quite drastic. Another reason for shortages in rural school districts is access to an educator preparation program. If you are an individual who is tied to your rural community, and you will have to have access to a teacher preparation program where it's located, and that's not always an option. There's also one of the reasons I think rural districts have staffing difficulties is that unless you have a tie to the community, it's hard for you to have access. Unless you have family members in the community, or you own property in the community, or you know the community, it's harder for you to come from the outside and become a member in a rural community, and for you to stay. And then, of course, there's the limited conveniences associated with living in a rural community. But the need is real for community college, the need is real for rural communities to have quality teachers. And so that's what this grant is about, which makes me really excited. And that's what we're trying to help other institutions find ways of doing. So there's 4 topics really that we'll center around today. One has to do with just quickly looking at the grant requirements. I would imagine most folks who've logged on have already had a chance to review the grant a little bit, but just speak about those a little bit. I'd like to share with you something that's unique about our TechTeach program, and that's the role of the site coordinator. And then we'll visit a little bit about the different types of site coordinators. There's really one type of site coordinator, but they can be in very different places. And then Sean is going to share with us some examples of our partnerships and speak specifically about Crosbyton ISD. Okay, so there are 3 pathways in the Rural Grow Your Own grant, and I strongly encourage you not to rely solely on this website or this webinar. We need to attend the webinar that TEA produced around the grant, of course. But there are 3 pathways: pathway 1, 2, and 3, aptly named. So pathway 1 is something that is a grant program that the district will apply to, and basically pathway 1 is about getting additional funding to support both the teachers of the education and training courses related to teacher preparation, and if possible also then including trying to offer those classes as dual credit with a community college, and then also sending or developing student organizations that also support and foster the idea that you want to become a teacher. Pathway 2 is also a district focused application. This pathway involves local school districts identifying individuals that they have in their school district and helping them access teacher preparation and complete that within a couple of years. The grant monies can be used during their final year of teacher preparation when they are student teaching in the rural community, and it pays about $10,000 that can be used for stipend, I believe, as well as scholarship. So that that's an effective way if the community has individuals who they know want to become teachers. They have again, TEA has again paired pathway 1 and pathway 2. So if you apply for pathway 2, you also have to become involved with pathway 1. And then there's pathway 3, which of course is the one that Texas Tech is interested in, and I'm sure hopefully other folks will be as well. That's a pathway where universities apply in partnership with school districts. This year is new. It is a 2-year funding cycle. In the past, it's just been 1 year at a time, but this year it's 2 years. There are 2 options. This is also new to well, actually it was in pathway 2 or grant cycle 2. There's an intensive pre-service option, which involves somebody going through their teacher preparation program but becoming a teacher of record during their senior year. So they have to do an intensive pre-service experience, and then while they're finishing their teacher preparation at a university, they can become the teacher of record. And then there's the more traditional pathway where you do the student teaching for the last year. There is also new to this year is that the district makes a commitment in coming into this partnership that they will hire the individual who's prepared in their school district. So if it's tempting to say, yes, I want 35 student teachers out in my school district every day, but I can really only hire 5 of them. Well, the grant is structured in such a way that the district makes a commitment that if you bring somebody into your school district for teacher preparation, that you will in fact offer them work. And then this is new for cycle 3, and that is that the universities have to support not necessarily the Future Teachers of America program, but they have to support the education and training course production, education and training courses at the districts. So pathway 1, 2, and 3, and there's lots of ways that we can get new teachers out to rural school districts. Okay, at this point, I'd like to have a little bit of discussion about the critical role of the site coordinator. In many ways, Texas Tech is similar to other universities. We have a university-based teacher preparation program, and we're constrained in just the ways that all the other programs are too. We need to generate semester credit hours, and we have to have a certain enrollment, or we come under scrutiny. But there's one aspect of our TechTeach program that I believe sets us apart from other programs, and it's the role of the site coordinator. And that's an intro, Sherry.
Yeah, thanks.
There you go.
So yes, the role of the site coordinator is definitely critical, and we really call it a vital role because that is the person that's the liaison between the educator preparation program and the K-12 campuses that he or she serves. So we call them a liaison. They are the direct line of communication so that anything that's occurring at the educator preparation program is directed through the site coordinator to ensure that there's just accurate two-way path of communication. They also are the ones that are on the ground coaching the teacher candidates in the classrooms, outside of the classroom, teaching courses. They're also providing training to mentor teachers just to ensure that we have consistent expectations and we're in line with what we're teaching in the content courses at Tech is what they're implementing in the actual classroom, that they can make those connections. They also share data so that we can track whether or not teacher candidates are progressing through the program or how they're progressing, and then feed that information back to us so that we can make the appropriate changes or implement help or support if needed. So really we just see them as that vital role just to ensure that all expectations of the program that happens here in Lubbock can happen with fidelity at all of those locations, regardless of where they're at. So it's definitely one of our reasons for success. And then I want to talk a little bit about, I can assume many of us were probably trained under traditional teacher prep models where I know in my case, I had a university supervisor that she was a retired teacher, and she would come out and observe me 1 or 2 times throughout the semester. And I remember she'd provide me feedback right after I taught, but I know based on her role that she wasn't a teacher within the university and hadn't been for quite some time or maybe ever. And so a lot of the things she was giving me feedback on were her suggestions based on her experience. So she was doing the best she could, but it didn't really align with what I had learned in my classes. I also remember one time she actually gave me feedback that was different, contrary to what my mentor teacher was saying. And so here I was as a novice teacher just beginning, and I wasn't sure, what do I do? Which one do I implement? And I know that outside of those few interactions, when she came and watched me teach and provided a little bit of feedback, maybe we debriefed right after. Outside of that, I wasn't offered any professional development. I didn't have her for any classes, just to really help make those connections as I was out there learning with my mentor teacher. And I think many of us had the same probably experience if I was to ask everyone, which definitely leads into
me. So I'm going to talk about the role of a site coordinator. And as you heard, Dr. Hammond introduced me as a site coordinator. And so that is one thing that really sets our program apart, like Sherry spoke of. from a traditional program. We are full-time instructors, so we are embedded in the classes, so we know what the students are being taught in their coursework. And so, and as you see on this PowerPoint slide, it says that we're a coach. That's what we see ourselves as, is we are a coach, and that's what we do throughout the program, is we coach our teacher candidates. We are a support between the school and the programs. And so we have governance meetings once or twice a semester, and we listen to the needs of the district, and we try to make sure that our program is supporting the district. I would like to give an example. One of our districts wanted our students to be ESL and SPED certified. So all of our candidates in every program that we have, secondary, middle, and elementary, are all able to take those tests prior to graduating, so they can be certified in special ed and ESL. And again, that was based on a need that a district brought to us in a governance meeting. And then we have ongoing professional development for site coordinators. Currently, we're working on giving high quality written feedback. Last year, we focused on rehearsal. And so we are continuously growing in our profession and getting better every year. And I think that the schools that we work with, they notice that we get better every single year, that we're getting better. And so I love that we have the growth mindset, and we stay in touch with, the trends of education, and we're changing with that. Clinical supervisors, we do walkthroughs, we do formal observations, we do a pre-conference before every formal observation with the teacher candidates, which most school districts in the state of Texas use T-tests, and that's in alignment with what they do with T-tests. And then we do our observation, and we do post-conferences afterwards. Our teacher candidates, they watch themselves, and they script their lessons, and then they self-evaluate, and then we meet in that post-conference to talk about our scores and talk about areas of refinement and reinforcement. We also do weekly meetings with our teacher candidate that we call cluster meetings, and we meet with them for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it's needs-based. So whatever we're seeing in our walkthroughs and in our performance assessments, it's on just-in-time instruction, if you will. So it's just continuously changing. So we don't have a set of lessons that we're going to cover in our clusters throughout the semester. It's really needs based on where our candidates are showing areas of refinements. And then we provide professional development to our mentor teachers. So we meet with them at least 3 times a semester. And so for mine, for example, we met before school started, before the students came back in August, and we talked about co-teaching, because we do utilize co-teaching in TechTeach. And so we trained them on that. And then I recently met with my mentors in the last couple of weeks, and we talked about student achievement chart, because that's something we use with our candidates. So we meet with the mentor teachers so they can help coach our teacher candidates, because we want our mentor teachers to see them as themselves as coaches as well. And of course, we're going out to the rural schools to do that. So the 4 schools that I'm in this year are Crosbyton, Slayton, Roosevelt, and Floyd-Ada.
Okay, thank you, Jody. So site coordinators really are the secret sauce of our program, and I can't emphasize that enough. So site coordinators, obviously a critical part of the program, but the context in which they work may vary based upon 3 things. The extent to which they're tethered to the physical campus, so how close are they working to Texas Tech and Lubbock, the extent to which they're embedded in a district, and also very practically, who pays the salary of the site coordinator.
Okay, so
you're up, Jody.
So there's a few types of site coordinators, and so I'm considered just a regular site coordinator. I'm out in Roosevelt, Slayton, Crosbyton, and Floyd-Ada, like I said. So those are my that's my role. And then we have what we call visiting site coordinators. And so we have a site coordinator that goes out to Tahoka and one that goes out to Brownfield. They're regular site coordinators in our TechTeach program. And so they do the visiting in addition to their regular roles as a site coordinator. And would you consider me, am I a circuit site coordinator?
You're a circuit site coordinator.
Okay, I'm circuit site coordinator.
You're
so
circuit writer.
So I'm based out of Tech, but we have one, I think the one in Muleshoe supports Spring Lake Earth as well. So that would be a circuit. Right. So you are in one location, but you support several sites. And so that's one way that districts can afford a site coordinator, is they can split the cost. So instead of one district trying to pay the salary of a site coordinator, you can split it between several districts. And so I just drive from district to district to district and support them.
Yes, she does. How many miles do you have on your car?
190 now.
Oh my.
190,000.
Yeah, 190,000, yes.
Okay, so the second type of site coordinator would be someone maybe that was employed within the district. So they're a district full-time employee, that's where their salary originates from, but they're also a site coordinator. And I think this will vary depending on the number of teacher candidates, like Doug was talking about, right? You might ask for 35, but be careful what you wish for, because then you have to support the 35, right? And then ultimately hire them. But they are a full-time district employee, and then they also work with us. And so what does that entail to be a site coordinator in a rural location? Well, it means that you do have to attend training, because we talked about that we want it to be implemented with fidelity. So we want to ensure that that training piece and that preparation piece is there. So that looks attending trainings, which occur as early as April through the summer. And those you would have to travel for. Most of them, they're things like co-teaching on our competency-based rubric. And then just to learn the expectations of the program, we bring you here to Lubbock. And so we brought them here. They attended multiple trainings. Then we do house bi-weekly trainings as well, so that we stay in contact. Just because you're out in the rural area, we want to still stay connected and make sure you're not having any troubles and have that direct line of communication. We do leverage technology on those, though. So we use Zoom, and we actually just had one right before this webinar where we were able to reach out and provide that interaction with them. The site coordinators also teach courses for us, so they are the site coordinator out there doing everything Jody just said on a couple of slides ago, in addition to teaching the Introduction to Teaching course as our students begin the program, and then that student teaching course that Jody referred to as cluster throughout, so that we have that coursework and clinical connection with the site coordinator. And then everything we've listed before, where they are doing the data so that we can track our teacher candidates, because regardless where they're located, we want to ensure that those teacher candidates are receiving the same preparation as here. So they also have to fulfill their district responsibilities, so we work around that. And so far, we've managed that pretty well. Technology helps. And the third one is very, very similar to what I explained, except they're a community college full-time employee, right? So they have those responsibilities. And Doug, I can definitely reach out, right? Like ours, since she's part recruiter, pretty much primarily her job is recruiting and then supporting her teacher candidates because of her numbers, but that could vary, right? Depending on, okay. So they also receive their support and guidance from us, so they would attend the same trainings and fulfill the same expectations as a site coordinator. So like Doug was saying at the very beginning, the site coordinator role is the same. It could be a different, pathway, a different type of person, and where they are housed and funded can definitely vary.
And I just want to give a shout out to Dr. Sharp at Howard Community College. She saw the need for the AAT program to grow at Howard, and she also saw the need for teachers in the districts that surround Howard College. And so she put those two things together and said, if we pay for the site coordinator, we have a pathway for our Howard College students to earn their bachelor's and become teachers. So very, very innovative teaching. Okay, so we've described the role of the site coordinator and the variations, and now I'd like to go a little deeper into some of the examples and how it looks in operation.
So a couple of our examples, Jody alluded to our partnership with Muleshoe. We have a site coordinator out there that has done everything we've talked about with the training. She's attending the meetings. She even brought her future teachers class up to tech and did a visit, just, really becoming a part of our faculty, and then still, having her district embedded job as well. And so she oversees her teacher candidates, and I believe she has about 5 or 6 is her number that she monitors, maybe 8. And then she is a circuit as well, so she travels from Muleshoe to Spring Lake Earth and back, and she has candidates in both places. Similar, Doug was giving the shout out to Dr. Sharp. That's one of our site coordinators that is community college full-time employee. She works as a recruiter to help find her teacher candidates and support them in multiple locations. So I bet she can rival you on miles on her car as well, or getting close. But they all, and they even, one component is Jody alluded to, was governance meetings, right? So we meet regularly, I think monthly, with them to just make sure that they have all the systems and access to everything that you would here locally, they have at a distance, even being in a rural setting.
So the map you see on the screen there, that's the path for Melissa from Howard College, and I calculated on Google Maps it's about 145 miles round trip. So if she does that each day, which I hope she doesn't do it each day, but I know her new Subaru is got some miles.
We should put the criteria is to have a really economical car, right?
Or a big one.
Or a big one.
Okay. Mr. Mason.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Hammond. Just give you a little background how we got started with tech. In fact, I guess our partnership goes back to us and tech. It's 5 or 6 years ago, I kind of lost track, but kind of got into the situation. When I came into Crosby, I inherited the IR campus at the elementary. When we started digging into the possible causes of that, one of the root causes was high teacher turnover. We had a group of well-established elementary teachers been here for a very long time and all about the same age, all had roots established in the community, and they all retired at once. So that kind of started a revolving door at our elementary school. And when I came in with our campus, that's one of the places we identified that we needed help. And the PSP we hired has some ties with the tech education department, and he said, hey, let me tell you about this program tech has. So we started knocking on the door. I think we got in just because Dean Ridley finally got tired of us asking. We warmed down just by being persistent.
It's true.
He got tired of seeing us, so he agreed to talk to us a little bit more. But it's, I think Jody was our first site coordinator, and Tech bore the entire cost of that program that first year. And it's, we got started, and it's resulted in a great partnership. And through that first year, Doug and I really started recruiting others to join us. We try to use my contacts and network in our TASA study group, our community schools groups in Region 17. We talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime. We had groups meet at the service center. Doug, I, and Dean Ridley presented this program at Midwinter Conference. Last year, I presented the same program at the school board convention. Let's try and get word out because we believe in it. We've had great results. In fact, I did a little looking before we started today. Right now, out of our entire staff across the ISD, 18% of our staff come through our Grow Your Own program.
Wow.
And that's over the last 6 years, and that's while it used to be a problem, it's now kind of turned into a different problem. We'll get down to that in a little bit, but if you're in a rural community, you may be like us. I have no research to back this up other than 30 years of watching it happen. I've been in the same area for just about my whole career right here around Lubbock, Texas. And Lubbock has 3 big school systems: Lubbock ISD, Cooper ISD, and Friendship ISD. Those 3 districts, when students come out of Tech, they come out of LCU, they come out of Waylon. If you go to a job fair, you can't get in line to talk to Cooper, Friendship, or Lubbock ISD. They're getting resumes, they're getting candidates to hire, they have their pick. When hiring season starts, March, April, May, they get all the resumes. We may have a job open then, and we may not get a resume, an applicant during that time. Then you can kind of watch the circle expand to other Lubbock County districts and other districts about 15, 20 miles outside of Lubbock. May and June, those districts start getting more applicants. Then we get out here to Crosbyton, we're 35 miles from Lubbock. And that's a good representation there on the screen about what it looks like as you go about 8 miles outside of Crosbyton. You fall off the Cap Rock there and you get 30 to 40 miles outside of Lubbock, we don't start getting applicants or a quantity of applicants until July. And at the time, we was hiring mostly alt-cert and the less desirable applicants might be the nice way of saying things. But even those applicants we were hiring was short-term folks. we couldn't keep them here, and the revolving door continued. And once we got this partnership started, we started hiring some young, some non-traditional students. We placed to the TechTeach, and went back and looked at some scores from last year. We placed a 4th and 5th grade teacher, first-year teacher, just finished the TechTeach program. They inherited a class that was habitually low performing for us. Actually, it was pretty poor. And they more than doubled their pass rate at the approaches on their first year in math and English language arts in the 5th grade. Two ladies did an outstanding job. Everybody we've placed from Tech, we can go back and look at their data over who they replaced. There has been improvement. And these are not always non-traditional. These two ladies I was speaking of, a little older. We have young kids come in and do the same thing. These kids, through the site coordinator working with them, our principal working with them, their mentor teacher working with them, they're getting coaching, and the way Tech has things set up, they're all on the same page. They're getting the same message from their cooperating teacher, they're getting the same message from their principal, they get the same message from the site coordinator. And when they come out of this program, they are prepared. They hit the ground running. We've had them on campus for a year. We treat them just like we do an employee. We give them ID badges. We give them access to the buildings. We want to make them comfortable. So when we get them as teacher of record, they hit the ground running, and they are part of the staff. They're part of the community. One interesting thing is some of the kids from Tech have figured out that they can live in Crosby a whole lot cheaper than they can in Lubbock. And through the stipend, through this grant, most of them's living out here now. You can rent a house in Crosby for $500, or an apartment in Lubbock for $1,200. Bills a lot cheaper, and they have a little money in their pocket. They're established here. They're living in a home, and it has not been a problem for them to stay engaged for our community and our school system. And it's been great for Crosby ISD, and we're looking forward to many years to come. But one of the things that through the success of this program is our new challenge is we have a low turnover rate. As Doug said earlier, now we're having to predict where our openings are going to be. Before, that wasn't a problem. We had such high turnover, especially in elementary. I would take 35 teachers almost. We have about 25 on staff because we're losing so many. Now we're getting these TechTeach, we're getting working to keep our staff here. Now we have a low turnover, and the challenge now is to identify those needs. We're still in a small community. We're still having enough relationships with our teachers. We can see the cycle starting to repeat itself at our secondary schools now. A big group of teachers been well established here, been here a long time, and they're starting to retire. And we can see them coming in the next 2 or 3 years. The hard part of the current challenge is knowing what their timing is. With House Bill 3 and everybody getting a big raise, that's changed some minds, so that's making that job a little more difficult for us. But we do have a student teacher in language arts now, a TechTeach student, that we know that we're going to have an opening in middle school language arts next year through retirement. So we have that set. Others are not as easy to predict, but we're trying to build how our principals, myself, we're all working with those teachers. Hey, if you let us know what your plans are. We're not going to hold you to it, but we need to know so we can start working towards a candidate from Tech to replace you. And our community sees this as well, and they're on board with this program because they see the results these students get with their kids. They see how these students invest in our kids, they invest in our community. They work the concession stand, they work the game, the football field. They come to the games. They're seeing the community. They go to the grocery store. They go to the convenience stores here. They're embedded in the community, and our folks notice. It sure makes things nice. It makes it easy on the principal and superintendent when you bring in these students and they're not brand new, and they know they're invested in our community.
Excellent. Thank you, Sean. So this was a picture from our match day, and Sean, you attended the match day.
Yes, sir. That's been I don't know if Doug or Jody, I don't know who started this, but I thought it was a great idea. It's similar to match day for when I guess med school students match with their pre-med programs. I had somebody explain to me the other day, teaching is brain surgery. We're working on the brain every day. Teachers try to grow the brain, try to develop it in these young kids. So yes, it is important. It is a very noble profession, and having a match day when we get all the candidates together and the school district representatives, and we get to meet our candidates for the first time and welcome to our school, make them feel, let them know a little bit what to expect. We start to get to know them, and it was a very nice program this last year, and I think it's successful. I think it's something to build confidence in these, well, I'm getting old enough to call them kids now, but these young people that's going into the programs so they can be comfortable with us, and we can hit the ground running in the spring and get the ball rolling in August when they all come back and we are prepared.
And just to attribute that correctly, that was Donna Brasher's idea.
Yeah, I didn't figure it'd probably come from you, Doug. That's true.
Thank you, Sean. Well, so, and then we had the Rat Pack there, looks like.
Yes, sir. We're missing Gilbert out of that.
Yep. So we had, it was a nice event and a great opportunity for everybody to get to meet one another and take some good pictures. Okay, so we have visited a little bit. Thank you, Sean. We've visited a little bit about the pathway requirements, described the role of the site coordinator for the TechTeach model, and some variations on that theme, and then some current examples that we're currently operating in. So our question really kind of driving this presentation was, what are some innovative ways that universities can partner with rural school districts to help address their staffing needs? So some of the things that you heard about were about the structure of the program and the important role that the university representative can play. Having a variety of certification pathways. Lots of universities and colleges have both a traditional and an internship and maybe even an alt cert. So bringing those to bear in your partnership to try to address needs. Sitting down and having conversations about problems is has been one of the most rewarding aspects of this. And when you partner with something like this, that's naturally going to happen. There's joint recruiting, and then of course we've got to do some preparation for sustainability, because the grants don't last forever. So I'd like to open it up at this point to our audience and see if there are some questions folks have about our program or about the current grant or anything. Let me get to my, sorry. So let me get to my chat here and see if I can find if there's a question here. All right, I think we answered every bit of the questions. Let's see, Jeff, are you, I see that Jeff Harvey's here. Jeff is a superintendent from Fayetteville. He was also, his district was a participant. Jeff is the site coordinator. I guess they're muted. Sorry about that, guys. All right. Okay, well, seeing no further questions here, I guess we'll end a little bit early. We have another link for the second part of the webinar today, and has to do with just some lessons learned from our previous attempts at applying for this Grow Your Own program. One of the best tips I'll give everybody here is have great partners and great people running your program like we do here. So that's your key to success.
Doug, I think there's one question that popped up on the chat just now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and read that.
Sure.
Don't mind.
No, not at all. So Katie asked, have all of the districts had the same level of success and sustainability as Crosbyton?
I'm going to say yes. Jody, you can probably speak to that better than I can, given
So last year, out of all of our candidates, every school district was able to hire theirs except for one. But with the agreement, they took a job within the coalition. So, and they're staying. Crosbyton, the first group that we had, they're in year 2 already. And like I said, everybody's staying committed to the agreement that they signed. And as far as I know, every district is very, very happy with how things are going. So we're only Crosbyton was the first. And so, like I said, they're in year 2. So we're pretty new to this program, but everybody did fulfill their commitment.
Well, let's talk to other superintendents in the coalition. Everybody's extremely happy, and also a lot of interest from others want to know what we're doing in our study group and things. Just want to know how it's working. So the interest is building. The more we have in our coalition, the more interest is built, especially out here in Region 17.
All right. Well, please go get a cup of coffee and come back and join us for our next webinar. And thank you, Sean and Jody and Sherry and Donna over there in the corner. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Doug.